All right, everyone, welcome back to the Mediaverse Studios podcast. Tonight we have Adam Orton. He is a tremendous director, writer, cinematographer, and overall storyteller from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We can't wait to have a chat with him, and we're just so glad that he's here tonight. So, how are you doing tonight, Adam?
I'm great. Definitely not pre-recorded this. Sorry. You're sort of, as an independent filmmaker, you're always kind of like tossing ideas around and working on stuff, and then like people call you and they're like, "Oh man, we might be able to get this to happen," and so you got to like drop everything and work on it with the understanding that it might fall apart at any moment or just come to a screeching halt. And so, I've been back and forth on that a lot. A couple ideas being tossed around. One that we almost had funding for, and then, kind of had to pull the reins back a little bit. Sure. But yeah, good. And, a lot of life choices, life changes coming up.
Gotcha.
I still definitely plan to make films, but my wife and I are in the process of relocating our family. So,
Wow.
yeah, moving to Vancouver. So,
Is that right?
Yep, Hollywood North. Yep.
Wow.
Looking, probably trying to do that at the first week of March. So,
Oh, wow. Coming up quick, huh?
yeah, yep.
Wow.
I mean, we might slow down a little bit, but we're making such progress with getting our home ready and everything. So,
Sure.
but yeah, it's fun. I
believe
like what I love like making films in Iowa because there's just so many connections and people here. But at the end of the day, like I think to take the sort of next big step and work on, you know, slightly bigger stuff or just be closer to film financiers, I kind of have to be in the same city. But
Absolutely. Yeah, I
yeah.
get that. And Vancouver's got a killer film scene up there.
It really does. Yeah, it's my wife and I were looking at Los Angeles for the longest time,
Yep.
but there's a lot about Los Angeles right now. It's sort of that's everyone's first choice when it
Yep.
comes to the entertainment industry, whereas Vancouver is where those LA films go for the tax incentives and
Sure.
cheap production costs.
Yep.
So, yeah, and my sister-in-law lives there. She works at a video game studio. She's
Wow.
CFO, CEO, or something. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, she's hot shit. Yeah, she went to Vancouver Film School. That's where she met her husband. She got married, got citizenship, and got a job there. So we'll be
Wow.
around her a lot. Yeah.
Amazing.
And her
Well,
kids.
geez, good luck, man. We're gonna miss you here in
Thank
Iowa.
you. Yeah, it's really sad. I don't know. It's like it's very, very bittersweet. There's so much I'm gonna miss. But it's we're just kind of at a holding pattern
Yeah.
until otherwise. So,
I get that.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't mind if you get my opinions on this. Like, I'm definitely not happy with the state of the country. Not been happy with the state of Iowa for a while. And I've always been, pretty pretty conservative in a lot of fiscal areas, and I understand like politics is it's a push pull compromise.
Yeah.
But we're at this strange point now where I think extremism has been making the conversation hard, and we're sort of unable to kind of talk about things. And I'm not necessarily saying or blaming anyone for not wanting to talk to someone of the opposite political affiliation. I would hate to do that. But yeah, we're in trouble. And I think I am still very much going to fight. One of the things about going to Canada that I'm not looking forward to is it feels like I'm running from a fight, I guess. But also I have my kids to look forward to and
Right.
take care of. And
I see it as people that are talking about, leaving the country or doing expat stuff.
yeah,
I see it as more like this tactical retreat.
yeah,
You know,
yep,
it's going to send a message either way, if you stay or if you go.
yeah.
And there's honestly, I think there's honor in it. I think that it's the right move, and yeah,
Well, and I'm certainly going to vote because I'm still an American citizen, and my sister-in-law, dual citizenship, she still votes too.
it's all right.
and I'll probably come back to LA quite a bit, but yeah, it'll be a while too before I'm even considered a citizen. I'll mainly be on a work visa for a while, but yeah, I think overall we're really pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, and we found this a beautiful house back in 2018, and we thought that was going to be like our maybe forever home. My kids love it. We have a beautiful yard and like fenced in backyard, and like our kids just roam free in the neighborhood, and there's like 5 different houses they go to and play and stuff, and so that's hard to leave.
It's a great little neighborhood.
It really is, yeah. So I'm sad to leave that. My wife, she does not give a shit. She's just like, let's get out of here,
I get it.
But so, but the fact that I made a film like In the Silence for less than $10,000 is really a testament to how much you could do in the state.
Yeah.
And that will be hard to leave. Whatever films I do in Vancouver on my own dime are probably going to be like based inside of a small apartment.
Sure.
Because that's the only...
It'll be a little chamber film that,
Yeah. Although there's like lots of mountains and outdoors. It's, Pacific Northwest. So
it's true.
There's nature to sort of be in. But yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of big.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're obviously going to be sad to see you go because you're a big pillar in the Iowa film community.
Yeah, I mean,
but
that's good. I like it.
It's also great to see progress.
Yeah.
For individual filmmakers.
Yeah.
I like to see that.
Yeah. Scott Beck and Brian Woods.
Yeah.
I remember when they left. Well, they were in sort of around the time I was following them. Their first film was called University Heights, and like that's like high school level film production. And I saw it on KCRG because they were airing the Cedar Rapids Film Festival wins. And I don't know how long they continued doing that, but that was when I first figured out who they were. And I was like, wait, the high school kids can make films. And so I sort of followed them in their career, and I kind of messaged them a couple times. And when they went to Hollywood, I was like very, very sad. I was like, I was losing 2 amazing filmmakers. But like, look what they did. It's incredible. Not only did they get a feature film off the ground for more than $1 million, it did amazing. And has led to, I think, 3 or 4 other films now. So,
and they're a massive inspiration to all of us in the Indie Iowa community.
Yeah.
And they came back, they built the Last Picture House in Davenport, and it's inspirational to all of us.
Yeah. It's like, that's, hopefully what I do, whether or not, I become super successful. It's just, I know personally there's people here who are at the start of their film journey, and like, I want to be able to help giving them some sort of rung on a ladder to move forward any way I can. And whether that's just through moral support or, letting them borrow my camera shit. It's like, or building something, in the case of the Last Picture House, that's going to provide a venue for people to just meet and talk.
Yes.
Which is so important. That's how I met you. You and Michael and the rest of your crew doing like this open house here at Mediaverse.
Yeah.
And my good friend Bo Batterson already knew you. I think, do you know Eric Benson?
We worked, me and Bo and Eric and Michael Minard worked on a short for a contest that Minard was doing.
Yeah, Minard, yep.
That's when I first met Bo.
Yeah, cool, yep. So he knew you, and I wasn't originally even going to come out, but I had heard about it, and I suggested to Bo, I was like, hey, we should go to this. He's like, oh, I was already planning on it. So we came together, and
it was cool to see you there.
Yeah. Had some tacos. And
I just went to an open house at Studio 81, the new place in Cedar Rapids.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we shot there.
Yeah, Robert Decora. Yep.
That was great. That was cool to see a bunch of community members come together and people I hadn't met before.
Yeah.
And so just, again, like just getting together, making connections, building community, like that's hugely important right now, not just on like a film creative artistic level, but just in general. I think community is going to be big coming up.
Yeah, and it's like, so the project that you and I worked on for that pharmaceutical company, Did you meet Juan Gomez? He ran,
Yes,
second
yeah.
AC or
He's Young
first AC.
Creatives, right?
Yeah, yep. So that was his first time at being at Studio 81, meeting Robert,
Yep.
and he has now shot at least 2 music videos there. And so
Wow.
that is also, I mean, he could have probably seen one of Robert's ads for
Mhm.
Studio 81 and maybe discovered it that way. But I think the connection of just being on the crew, meeting him while he was there, building that connection, uh, made it sort of easier to say, hey, this is a location I could shoot in. And
There's something about physical interaction of just
yeah,
like, hey, I'm a real person, you're a real person. Like,
yep.
it's important that we're together right now.
Yep, and it makes it feel real too.
Yeah.
It's I when I was sort of starting out filmmaking, it was very very hard to take abstract ideas and turn them into reality and say like, hey, I need to go shoot at this location. I'm going to be able to do that versus actually calling them and meeting them and building that relationship. Because if they don't know you, it's sometimes you got to put yourself out there and meet people and
It's tough.
that is why networking is so important when you're in a relaxed environment and everyone's
And I find that it's easiest when the purpose of being there is to connect with people.
yes,
Like
yep,
film festivals or these kind of open houses or mixers that people throw.
yep,
Like you expect to go there and have conversations. Like and you also know going into it that everyone is expecting to have conversations.
yeah,
And so there's no awkwardness of like, hey, should I be talking to you right now? It's like, no, that's the point. That's
yeah,
why we're here.
right. Like if you're, let's say you're down on your luck and you need a job like yesterday, and uh, you got a family to feed, otherwise you're going to be on the streets. So you call someone up randomly, like some random business, you cold call them and be like, "Hey, I'll do whatever you want."
Yeah.
Like that takes a lot of nerve to do.
Yeah.
But if you go to an event, a networking event, and the boss of that company is there, it's so much easier to make those introductions.
Yes.
And I tell students that I've taught and at Hawkeye before, they were asking like, how do I move forward and stuff, and it's like the biggest thing I could say is just put yourself out there, and if you're an extrovert, don't be annoying. If you're an introvert, force yourself to be extroverted. So
It's tough.
yeah, you have to
Especially
find the right
yes.
balance.
I think of myself as an extrovert or introvert. Like
Yeah,
it's hard every time.
yeah,
And that's just reps.
yep,
It just takes flexing that muscle and working that out so that you can, I don't know, get yourself in the right headspace for doing it. But to your point, like we get emails all the time and calls from people that are like, hey, I'm, just out of film school, or I'm just out of college, whatever, and I'm looking to become an editor or to be on a crew or something, and they send me their resume. And I'm like, that's great. I really appreciate the cold call aspect of it.
yeah,
But at the same time, the people that I find are sticking around are people like Boston, who you just met. We met him on a film set, and we were like, we really dig this guy.
yeah,
It was an in-person interaction that we met him, and we just happened to really enjoy his energy. And
yeah.
so, yeah, that in-person interaction is critical.
It is, yeah. And being a good person, being a person of integrity. Integrity is super important when you are on a film set. Everyone is really, really tired, and something bad happens that you have to figure out how to handle.
Yeah.
The people that are going to succeed are the people that step up and take leadership. And leadership doesn't necessarily mean like commanding everyone in the room to do something, but it just means that you're willing to not back away from some sort of problem.
Yes.
And having that sort of personality and skill set, and being social is
Yeah.
super super helpful. It's film industry is not the type of art form where you can just sit at home and make stuff in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So
And I'll add to that yes, the one that solves the problem or that is like giving their knowledge to that problem and just working it,
yeah,
but also the person that's managing the energy of the team. That's there to
morale, yeah,
yeah, to keep the
yeah,
morale up. That's big. When stuff goes wrong, if there's someone there that's like, all right, everyone, we're gonna be okay. Like this guy's on this guy's on that guy's on that. They're working the problem. We're gonna work this problem.
yeah,
Like, if you're like not necessarily the happy dog, but like the one that's just positive,
yeah,
and then is also calming and like grounding for people.
yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna go a long ways for you.
Yeah, like I'll toot my own horn here. It was a kind of a crash course in leadership when I directed a movie back in 2014 called Amelia 2.0, and it was based on a stage play that played at Theater City Rapids from a playwriter slash screenwriter Rob Merritt.
Yep.
We were on day 12 of 14, or no, day 12 of 18, and we were into overtime, and we were following union rules and everything, and so everyone had the option of going home or taking overtime pay. And the G&E crew was just great. But I could tell they were just very much like I can't do this anymore. Like this is hard work because we shot 5 locations all over the city that day, and we were at a hospital shooting this room, and I thought like briefly like I'm gonna go buy them all gift cards and give them to them, and then I realized, okay, well, there's a lot of other people on the film team, and I would have to buy all these people. Like I can't just single this out. And for whatever reason or another, I was too busy to eventually go through with that idea. But I just came up to him and I talked to him and I said, like, guys, this really sucks, and I'm sorry, and I appreciate you being here and all that. And I'm sure I walked away and they said, "Who's that fucking asshole?" But it seemed like it helped them, and I think like it didn't change their energy level. It didn't make them any less tired, but it was just like when you work on a film set, you want to know that you're appreciated.
It's validating.
And yeah, and everyone wants to be like the big name person in some art form, but like if you're the guy taking out trash, like you're important, and everyone should be treated that way. And so, Jeannie always gets a lot of compliments, anyways, right? But yeah, in that case, I think they really brought that film together because we just had so much lighting and work like that to do. But
Yeah. And I guess I kind of wanted to shift gears and get into
let's do that.
some of your background. Just kind of your come up story. I know you're from Houston originally, and then you came up here via Chicago. But kind of tell that story of like how you got into film and how you became this creator that you are.
Well, it's obviously it's still a journey in progress, but I was born in Houston. Never met my biological father. He sort of left the picture when my mom was pregnant with me, I think.
Sure.
My mom met a man named Eric who became my stepfather while we were in Houston. I was about 8 at the time, and we moved to Cedar Rapids and got to about the age of 20. Met my wife. We both moved to Chicago. I went to Columbia Film School. I mentioned my father and all this because there's sort of a interesting end to that story. But we went to film school, and we were on our way to Los Angeles. And my buddy, who I met on this old film that I did back in 2005 or 6, or no, 2008, called In the Silence. He called me and he said, "Hey, I wrote this stage play that's getting some real traction here at Theater Cedar Rapids." And Theater Cedar Rapids is this community theater in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. That's just awesome. Mostly volunteers, except for like the administrative staff and everything. They just put on amazing plays. And he said my script, The Summerlin Project, was taking off. And what would you think about making a movie out of this? It's a sort of one location kind of thing. We could easily do this in a small set in a garage or something. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I know this woman who's willing to maybe spearhead the project with us as an EP, and her name was Mary Meisterling." And so right away, I knew I was wrapping up college. I just got done shooting a practicum film, which I was really proud of. I was like one of the few out of like 89 applicants or whatever. They picked 6, and I got, or maybe it was 4, and I was one of that selection to make a film. And my experience on that was a little miserable, but I met a producer on that named Alex Levine.
Okay.
And I came back from Chicago to Cedar Rapids for a day, met with Rob and met Mary Meisterling. And the day before, I prepared a pitch on an iPad because I knew she had the ability to get stuff done. She was an executive at a really large company, I think one of the largest companies in Cedar Rapids.
Okay.
And I was like, this is the time where I have to put in a lot of work for something that might not result in any kind of reward. And I drove from Chicago to Cedar Rapids, 4-hour drive, met at a coffee shop, met Mary and Rob. I sort of pitched her my vision of this film. Drove back the next day, or drove back after the meeting. So it was like an hour and a half long meeting.
Yep.
So I spent 8 hours that day driving.
Yeah.
Got an email back, and she's like, yeah, I want to move forward with this. And so over the next year and a half, I kept coming back to Cedar Rapids. I brought my producer that I met on my practicum film, Alex Avine, brought him involved in it. He knew the business side and how to pitch to investors and make it, sound good.
Yeah.
And the whole time we were like, this is going to be a small independent film. You should invest in this project to see art happen in Iowa. And a lot of the investors were fans of the Summerlin Project play, so we didn't have to pitch that hard. But it kept growing. And then met this one guy. I met this one guy in Los Angeles who Alex had already known. His name was Enrico Natale, and I'm still really good friends with him, and I work on a lot of stuff with him. He's a producer. He just finished up a film called The Ritual, starring Dan Stevens and Al Pacino. Dan Stevens is Matthew Crawley from Downton Abbey. So
Yeah.
yeah,
He's huge.
yeah, he's great. And so what was I saying there?
There you go.
The wine's hitting me.
Excellent.
It's good wine though.
It's good.
So he brought on someone he knew, Malcolm Denari. Again, this is where we're talking about networking.
Yeah.
I knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew Ed Begley Jr. and Deborah Wilson from Mad TV and Kate Vernon from Battlestar Galactica and Eddie Jameson from Ocean's 11. Chris Ellis from Apollo 13. John Livingston, who's from Marion. Actually, his brother is Ron Livingston.
Yeah. I was just gonna. As Livingston's. I thought you were gonna say Ron Livingston, but I didn't know he had a brother.
Yeah, his brother is great. I've never met John, but I've never met Ron. Ron is the one from Office Space.
Yes.
John is the one who I've met. He is amazing. He is a super talented actor. Things kind of snowballed from there. We got the film done. While we were shooting it, a bunch of like weird creative decisions happened and somehow resulted in me having to learn visual effects and like add a whole bunch of shit to the walls. It was, let me sidetrack for a second there to talk about that.
You're fine.
So our set was supposed to be this sort of cylinder, like a silo is what we called it.
Okay.
This round sort of half moon set. And the advantage of it was we could flip our actors without moving the camera and make the audience think that the camera was shooting on the other side of a 180 line.
So you did coverage just by blocking.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. And obviously lights, move the key light to the other side. But
sure.
And it was actually a beautiful plan. And so our production designer and art director drove out that day to go pick up a bunch of plexiglass. And it was supposed to be this beautiful, like sterile white room. Mm-hmm. They were out of white at the store. And so the production designer made an executive call and picked up black and brought it back. And he's like, hey, we drove for like an hour. I tried to call you, couldn't get a hold of you. So I picked it up. If we don't want it, we'll find white somewhere else and I'll take this all back and return it. And of course I was like, no, we'll figure it out.
Oh my God.
Anyways, the set ended up looking terribly shitty. And it was like just this black space with like these little LED strips.
Yep.
And so 90% of the movie takes place in this room. And at some point during shooting, we said, hey, we can make these touch screens, have the actors just touch them, and then we'll superimpose graphics behind them. And it's like, it sounded easy. But eventually it involves rotoscoping people's hands and tracking the black, which means, we're working with raw footage. So I cranked it up to like 9,000 ISO. I would find some speck of dust and use that to track if the camera ever moved. It was ridiculous. Yeah. So I spent 9 months doing visual effects on this because I was the only one that could. We didn't have the budget planned for visual effects.
Right.
And the more visual effects I did, the more I realized it needed more visual effects.
Sure.
And so it came down to me and 3 other people I taught how to do rotoscoping. And that is how I learned visual effects. Yeah. So the movie released in 2016 in Theater Cedar Rapids, or in Cedar Rapids. And most of the audiences, we filled up all of Collins Road Theater, all 4 theaters filled up.
Wow.
Yeah, each theater is like 150 seats or something, I think. And so
that's huge.
Yeah, it was cool. And I got to like go and do introductions for all of them. I got to be on the news, and then I got to do a couple of other interviews and podcasts for it. And then we found this sales agent who distributed it and did not meet the expectations they set for us, and learned a lot of valuable lessons there.
Sure.
But you know, the film got seen, most importantly, and ever since then, you know, I've been kind of jumping back and forth project to project. I've done I think 3 or 4 films since then, and mostly like a lot of commercial stuff. So
So straight out of film school,
Yeah.
you were thrown right into Amelia 2.0.
yeah, yep. And
way.
so many people said, you know, this is a really rare opportunity. And I
Yeah.
knew going into it, like getting your first feature film, that's just the hardest part. But if you get that one, then you get your foot in the door and it's easy. And so I was super, super excited about it. I'm like, yeah, this is it. I've arrived, you know, I made it. And then I realized after Amelia was out there, it wasn't a big giant hit. And we never expected it to be, just because we just did not have the budget to create the kind of huge film that I think would be needed to compete in a Netflix space.
Most of that is marketing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Most films, like half their budget is marketing.
Yeah.
And our marketing was just like the take that our sales agent, took.
Yeah. And whatever news picked you up.
Right. Yep. So, so we got that film out there, and the big thing was like, I'm waiting for the next job. I'm like, where are the people? They're not calling. And it's
Cavalry didn't come, man.
yeah. And at that time, I agreed to be a stay-at-home father. And then we had another kid in 2016. And and eventually I realized it's like the work never stops. There is no such thing as arriving. There's people in Hollywood right now, actors or directors or whatever, they have a huge successful film, and it might get them the interview on the next film, but that doesn't mean they can just skate by on that first success. They have to make the next thing good. You're only as good as your next film, and if you do really well in a project and then get picked to another project, and that second project is not good, you take 3 steps back. It's terrible. So the amount of pressure that is on people who are successful is very difficult.
Sure.
And it's the same for all entertainment artists.
Sure.
It's
Yeah. Everyone expects more.
Yep.
They never, they never want the same or less.
right. Yep.
So you mentioned that you did learn some lessons through, the post-production and then distribution process. So
Yes.
I guess I wanted to ask, what did you learn? What are some things that maybe that
Yeah.
whoever's watching this could take from it?
Yes. So if you are looking to do an independent film and you get it distributed, don't do a drama. Don't do anything where the audience has no reason to see it. Normally, dramas do well because they have critically acclaimed actors in them. If you don't have any kind of critically acclaimed actor, your film is dead before it starts. And you can make it for your own personal edification, and that's great and all. But if you're doing it with finance or money, you're doing them a disservice. So the other thing is, look at horror or thriller or any kind of psychological or relevant sort of story. The film is going to work in your favor so much. Those are typically films that don't rely on an expensive actor.
Okay.
Obviously, any film you do, you want talented actors. You just don't want someone, or you're just not going to be able to afford someone
Right.
like I don't know. I won't name particular Hollywood names, but dramas do well because of those names. And if you don't have that as an independent filmmaker, you're not going to get that film distributed. So that's the first point. The second point is make it a feature. Shorts are more for people who are trying to just get out to film festivals and sort of meet people. It's not to say it won't happen, but if you actually want to become a financial filmmaker, like someone who is treating it like a business, don't waste your time with any kind of short. Don't waste your film. Don't waste your time on any film that is under 90 minutes.
Gotcha.
So the third thing is if you get a sales agent, these are going to be people who say, "Hey, I'll take your film on. I'll sell it for you. Here's what we think the film's going to do, and here's all the different territories we're going to sell it to." So what you're going to do is you're going to sign with me. I'm going to make my money after I make $40,000 or 50 or 60 or 100, whatever it is. After I make this amount, then you'll start seeing profits from it. Then it'll trickle down to your investors or whatever your business plan is. Do not fall into that trap, because what happens is they get your film when it's in its hottest. Your film is you gotta have to think of it as a widget that doesn't last forever. It's like a widget that disapparates after like 6 months. So, if you make a factory that manufactures cars, and at the 6 month mark, that car just sort of floats off into the ether, you don't want to be trying to get money from that car at the 6 month mark. You want to be getting it the moment you release it and maximize your profits. So you need whatever sales agent you do needs to share in profits.
Right.
So you need to be seeing money as they are selling it, the moment they sell it. There's no waiting for them to make their fucking money. Like it's a ripoff, and they know that. They will take advantage of you. They'll prey on you. Any sales agent who does that needs to be blacklisted, in my opinion. It's such a scam. It's an absolute scam.
And are these sales agents providing money towards the film, towards the production, or are
They say they do, and that's why they say, "Oh, I need to make 100,000 first because of my
Make them
marketing
not back.
costs." Yeah, or you'll get someone who's like, it costs me so much money to make a trailer for the film, and then you figure out that actually they're just using the trailer that you made, and it's like it's Hollywood accounting,
Sure.
But they'll claim that they'll say like, "Oh, I need to go to Sundance or AFM, and like it cost me a first class ticket both ways from here to France," and it's like, so you're paying for all that just so they can go meet someone and be like, "Hey, I got this other film from this Adam Orton director."
Meanwhile, they're at Cannes and having the time of their life.
Yeah, and they've got 50 other films they're tossing too.
Sure.
And if your film is not a thriller or horror, it's probably going to get pitched last as an afterthought to some random film distributor. So yeah, find an agent who says we will share in the revenue immediately, and if it's a 50-50 split, and they try and claim, well, I also have expensive, you say, so what? Then you need to incentivize them to keep their expenses down. Like if they need to fly coach in that plane that goes to Cannes, then screw them. Like, that's their problem. But it's 50-50 or whatever it is. But you gotta see that money the moment the film goes out, because that is when your film is hottest.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
So I'm actually curious.
Yeah.
We just wrapped our feature film very recently, and we're in the process of like, where is this film going to go? We're going to go to some film festivals, but we obviously have it in mind to get distribution.
Yeah.
What would you give to me, but also to people that are also doing the same journey? Like, where do you start to find distribution?
So in our sort of indie finance film mess, nightmare, whatever it is, of just not having a large amount of money for marketing, you're most likely going to want to get an agent, a sales agent. And again, avoid someone who says, I get money first and then you make money, because you don't know how long that's going to be. You want to find someone, you want to find their, like if you go on their page, usually you'll see all the films they've repped. go call the directors and producers of those films and ask how their experience is with them. That sales agent, though, sales agents could be amazing if they're good, but if they're terrible, then it's like it's worse than distributing on your own. Like you would, yeah. I can't go down that road, but you
I
know,
guess how do you connect with these sales agents?
you can cold email them.
Okay.
That's a way. If your film is good, they'll love to see it. One thing that you can do if you're putting it on Film Freeway, and you don't even have to enter film festivals. On Film Freeway, you can get your film pushed as part of their daily email blast. So you pay like an extra fee, and they'll, on some random day that you pick, they'll send out your trailer to like a list of 10,000 people.
I get those. I get those marketing emails.
Yep. So you can pay for those. I did that for In the Silence, and it resulted in so much attention and extra festivals that it ended up winning in. So that's a way to meet agents. But I think with Amelia, I think we had them in some sort of contact list, and we contacted them or something. I don't actually remember how it happened. I think our producer was mainly in charge of that, but
Is that where like an IMDb Pro account comes in? You can have access to all that contact information.
yeah, yep. Yeah, so if you look up a film that you like, you can, get the IMDb Pro, look at the company repping it. Sales agents are like acting agents. They want to take your power or your acting power, your artistic creativity power, and put it out there in the world, and then they make money off of that, which they should, obviously, if they're doing their job. But it's the same sort of thing for a film. It's just an agent for a film, sales agent. So, but yeah, the main thing is just ask other filmmakers who they've repped, see what the relationship is like, make sure they don't screw you, and a lot of agents they might say, "Oh, I don't know of any other agents that aren't doing the my costs up front first thing." If they do, feel free to go somewhere else and check with them. But
Sure.
they need your film just as much as you need them, and so don't let yourself be pressured into going with them, so to speak.
Right.
But yeah.
Did you feel that pressure with Amelia being like, "Hey, this is your first film. Like, we're gonna make our money back first"? Like,
Yeah, so I guess I don't know. I don't want to be sued for libel or something.
well, we're not gonna name names here.
Yeah. Let me talk about it in terms of like yeah. So an independent film I did work on had a sales agent. I won't name the name of that film, but we had a sales agent who showed us their sort of estimates. And they repped a couple of big things in the 90s that I was really, really surprised and enthusiastic about. And so I was kind of enamored with that, I think. And they sent us over their estimates for these different territories. And it wasn't a lot. It was like, we'd bring back 500,000 in profits. And for a small little film, that's great. That would make our investors whole and whatever. But we looked at that sheet of estimates, and from that point, we sort of stopped thinking critically. Naturally, once we signed with them, the film did not see that success at all. In fact, out of those 20 territories that they said we'd be selling to, we only sold one territory. I think it was China or something like that. And that particular agent for that particular film still has a bunch of money left to make before we get our film back from. So from that specific film, we've never seen any money from it.
Thinking about it like
I cannot mention the name of that film because man,
yeah.
yeah.
Thinking about it like in the car reference, like you said,
Yeah.
is it like a Car's title where like someone else owns your film until they make their money off of it?
Yeah.
And then it goes back to you?
Yep. So you can try and do a buyout. If your original contract was like, let's say 50 grand and they've only made 10 grand off your film, or that's what they claim, like And a lot of sales agents, it is so easy to hide. Unless you hire like a lawyer and an auditor to go into their finances and figure out that they've actually only made $10,000, you're never really going to know what their expenses have been.
Sure.
My independent film, it's been with them for several years now, and they still claim that they haven't made 50,000 off of it.
Wow.
And so, if you have an agreement, let's say 50,000, and they haven't reached 50, then you can't get your film back from them unless you say, "Hey, I'll pay
that remainder.
that remainder." And so now you're paying money to get your damn film back.
Wow.
And that's if they agree to let you buy it back. They might not even agree it. And so,
So, thanks. That's actually like really valuable information for anyone listening, especially in the space.
Yep.
Next, I want to ask about some of your other projects that you've done or you're known for, and that was In the Silence.
Yeah.
So that was a kind of halfway between short and feature length film, and you had some theatrical screenings, and it was received very well. So I kind of want to ask about the production of that process, and then the future of that film. Like, what's the plan for it?
Yeah. So, that was a film. In the Silence it's like a sort of supernatural thriller drama, sort of mostly thriller, I guess, is what I would kind of try and consider it. But it was a film I worked on, one of the first sort of movies I did back in 2006 or 7 or whatever, and that's when I met Rob Merritt. We shot this I think it was like almost an hour long, and it had these really sort of cool elements. The script wasn't as good as it could have been. We didn't have any really sound equipment. We used the microphone on top of the camera.
Wow.
And I knew at the time, I'm like, oh, this is going to sound terrible, but I'm just like, audiences will be fine with it. And so we made it, and, it was fun, and I met people, and I actually learned a lot from it. But it was a really cool nugget of an idea, and I didn't get to sort of explore all the themes in it that I wanted to. And so about 2 years ago, I met up with Rob again, who I worked with on that the first time, and I said, hey, I got a lot more equipment now, a lot more experience, a feature film under my belt. I know a lot of people. I know this amazing composer, Michael Levine, who would write the music for it. He owes me a favor, and he wrote the damn Kit Kat song, and so he's good.
What?
Oh, yeah. So I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay. We're coming back to that, but go ahead.
We'll come back. So he's like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, this time I want you to write the script. I want you to take that thing that I kind of came up with it and expand it. And so he came up with, some of the things that he came up with will sort of spoil the story, but
Sure.
He expanded the idea of the character's wife and everything, and ended up, sort of owning the script, which was amazing because that's what I wanted. I wanted someone to take the nugget of the idea and turn it into something more, and that's what he did.
Yeah. He's a good writer.
Yeah, and so we shot it over 17 total days, spread out over a period of 3 or 4 months, I think.
And was it intended to be a feature, or did you want to keep it a short?
So I think the script was around 30 or 40 pages,
Okay.
and we knew it wasn't gonna be like a typical short of around 15 to 20 minutes, or an ultra short of 5 minutes. We knew it was gonna be kind of long, and we knew it wasn't gonna be a feature.
Gotcha.
At the time, I just wanted to make something, and I knew it would be a film that we could just make for gas money. And so I wasn't concerned about distribution on it or anything like that.
Okay.
And I said, I just want to do this to creatively fulfill my soul. And
Wonderful.
if it turns out great, which it will, we had a lot of faith in it. But I was just fed up with sales agents and worrying about distribution. I was just like, I just want to make something. And so we went out and did it. The film ended up being 40 or 50 minutes. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It was 48 minutes or something.
Yeah, that's right. 48. Yep. And so we showed it to a couple of test audiences, and people are like, wow, you guys made this for nothing. And I only looked at it and I was like, there's so much more we could have done, I think, with it. But it is what it is. And so some people really liked it, and we saw that as encouraging. And
Yeah.
from that moment, I did a lot of pushing on Film Freeway for it. I found a lot of what I did is I paid for ads through Film Freeway where they send out your trailer and your synopsis, and then I waited for the festivals to email me. And I cannot recommend that enough. Instead of just blindly finding film festivals, put out your own marketing first. You can use Film Freeway services. Wait for the festivals to contact you because they know what kind of films they're looking for their audience.
Sure.
It's making the selection process easy. Everyone applies to Sundance, and it's a waste of time. Honestly, they get so many films there. Your film is likely not going to get much of a consideration. Like, they do watch all the films at Sundance; they give them all due consideration. But it's just the sheer number of films they have there. The chances aren't good.
And sometimes it's the novelty of having your film watched by Sundance judges.
Yeah,
That people want, and that's
Yep.
what they pay for.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's they print out the rejection letter and they hang it on their wall, and
Right.
they're like, yeah, that means someone watched it. But even if it's not a Sundance Film Festival, you don't know what festivals are looking for unless it's a film festival that's like L.A. horror. Then it's like obviously they want horror films. But if it's just like Seattle Film Festival,
Right.
what kind of stuff do they want? Do they want drama? Do they want thrillers? Do they want supernatural thrillers? They want horror, body horror, action horror, like.
Right.
So, by putting out the advertisement, waiting for them to email you with their discount codes, which is 90% of the festivals that we submitted in the Science 2, we did with discount codes, just people sending us and saying, hey, we'd love to have you submit. Here's a discount code. And we saw tremendous success that way. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Michael. Okay. So how do you weed out? How do I want to ask this? How do you weed out the film festivals that are cash grabs?
yeah, that's a good question. So, not everyone on Film Festival will fill this out, or not every festival on Freeway will fill this out. But there's a section where you can list out the amount of submissions you have on average and then how many you accept. So if it's a festival that gets more than 100 submissions, it'll probably be okay. Then you want to look up, like, do they actually have a screening environment? Is this there's this whole sort of influx of film festivals that are like web things.
Yeah.
So they take your film and they put it on their YouTube channel.
Sure.
And
And it has like 16 whole subscribers.
yep, 16. Yep, on a good day.
Yeah.
And 8 of those are bots.
Yeah.
So yeah, steer clear of those unless it's maybe there's a couple that have done really well, but a lot of those exist because people apply for them and they make their money off of submission fees. So yeah, I mean, that's the first thing I look for is just do other people submit to this film festival? Do they have an actual screening environment? Do they have 5.1 sound? And do they care that their 5.1 sound is good? That's really important to me.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, like, do they market? It's one thing to hold a film festival. It's another thing to actually have people show up to that film festival. And in order to do that, you either need to have a following sort of already built, or that film festival needs to put out ads and do their own marketing. And that should not be your job. Like, the whole purpose of entering a film festival is that you are letting the festival market your film,
Yes.
because it's bringing them money. And so,
And that there's some notoriety to it almost.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
someone or some entity is attached to this, or at least has eyes on it, that can potentially further the career of whoever is
yeah,
witness or part of this film festival.
yeah, absolutely. And, at that festival, if you're usually, you can Google them. A lot of festivals will put off local ads, or, in the art section of their local newspaper, they'll have a little blurb about it. And most newspapers now are digital, so you can read if they do that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Those are all good routes. Some festivals, everyone looks for the festival that has thousands of people showing up. If you find a film festival that has like a really tight knit film community, but it's only like 50 or 60 people. I would rather do that than a festival that screens at a giant theater, but no one shows up.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. In the silence. So I got into this film festival in LA, and I was so excited. It was playing in like an actual Dolby theater. It was just incredible.
Did you mix it in 5.1?
Yeah, yeah. And so
cool.
I actually, I bought a $600 plane ticket, flew out there, came into the theater. I'm like, oh, my film's up in 10 minutes. And I sit there, 5 minutes goes by, 4 minutes goes by, the film's starting. Like, okay, there's no one in the theater.
Oh, man.
It's just me. It's a theater that holds like 300 people.
Oh, God.
So I got to watch my own film for $600 in a real theater with Dolby sound or whatever, and
Probably a cool experience.
it was cool. And one of my good friends did show up and, sat and watched it with me. He said he enjoyed himself, so thank you, Jesse. But
Damn.
yeah, so that was a learning experience. What that festival was, it's great that they actually screened in that environment. But this is another trick they do. So that film festival, they do bring out a lot of people. The problem is they screen it multiple times during the week. And so
Okay.
on their website, they show the photos of all these people coming out to their festival. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's great. Those are the films they show in the evening on the weekends.
Yeah.
If you get into that film festival, they screen all week, Monday through Friday, starting at 8 a.m. until like 6.
And their heaviest hitters are probably Friday at 7 p.m.
Those are their only hitters. Yeah. And so that way they can accept way more applicants,
Sure.
hand out those pretty little laurels, and make people think, oh, I'm going to get my film screened by all the people I see in this photo, when really the people in that photo were watching a film with Alec Baldwin that got made for $5 million and submitted because some friend was boning the producer. Like it's crazy. It's such a nightmare navigating this.
Yeah.
And
Well, it seems like such an environment to be taken advantage of.
yeah.
and
Yep.
so
Everyone wants their film seen and they want to be heard as an artist, and
Right.
it's easy to exploit that.
And everyone likes the laurels. Everyone likes the
Yeah.
accolades, and just the accumulation of these rewards that you get from Film Freeway.
Yeah.
That it can be honestly dangerous, and you can be really exploited if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for what you've said, at least in terms of like how to protect yourself, at least a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a lot of
Here's
exploitation out there.
Here's what I would say. If I had to do everything over again with that independent film, the one that shall remain nameless for legal purposes,
Sure.
I would say if all you can raise is $200,000, let's say, then you need to get your budget down to $100,000, and then use the other 100 and market the film yourself. So you get the film done. You get $200 raised in capital, $200,000 raised in capital. You figure out how to make your cheap little movie for $100, get it completely finished, find a platform to put it on Amazon or Tubi or whatever, and then use the rest of that $100,000 and buy the hell out of ads. That is probably the best way to actually see money immediately come back.
What ads? Social media or billboards?
So there's a lot of different ways. Probably the quickest way is to take a trailer, buy a bunch of Facebook ads that target it towards people who like that movie, who are in your age range and demographic, and also hiring like a publicist who can. They do all these weird little tricks. They'll go on weird forums and they'll leave messages about the new film they just saw to try and stir up organic, interest in the film. Mm-hmm. So a publicist is a great way to go.
Okay.
And just sort of getting your hands dirty in that. Naturally, like sales agents are beneficial when they do their job well because they know people. It's all about the relationships they have.
Sure.
So it's... all things said, our sales agent, despite the lack of revenue that we saw, they were able to get us distributed on in family video all across the country.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So
And those are DVD copies of
Yep.
Amelia.
Yep. Yep. So we were in family video, and that was incredible. But you know, independently with the internet, digital age, like you could do everything yourself now. And so if you are smart about how you use your marketing, you can bring people to your film. But your film has got to be good. You got to look at like what are the tenets of your film that make it interesting to someone. When you as a filmmaker, get off work and you go home and you watch something on Netflix, think about why you're picking the film that you're picking on Netflix. When you're scrolling through all this shit, like why do you settle on, The Resident or Squid Games? Squid Games. Oh, I heard someone talking about it. I saw a TikTok video about it. Oh, it's a movie that has TikTok moments in it.
Yep.
So you start thinking like the next film I work on, is it that type of film that it's going to like have those like funny moments in it, or have such a far out post-apocalyptic sort of idea to it that people are going to talk about it, So you really got to get yourself into the mind of an audience member. Like people just don't want to watch stuff that's not 100% entertaining.
Sure.
Like I don't even want to watch a film that's 95% entertaining. And I will spend an hour like just searching through films and waste all the time I could have spent watching a film because I want to make sure my entertainment is maximized.
And I will rewatch films that I know are entertaining because there's safety.
Yeah. Yep. You're not going to waste 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that's the secret right there. Like if you can figure that out, you don't even have to be that great of a filmmaker if you know what the audience wants and what kind of film they're going to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's so many films. I was watching The Hunger Games last night. The first one, Jennifer Lawrence, they found her. I'm trying to think, like she was in Winter's Bone. That was kind of her first like independent film.
Yeah.
It was a great film. She had an amazing performance in that. And sort of the first Hunger Games was sort of in that sort of vein, like a country kind of vibe to it. And if I was the producers, like, and the director who picked her and the casting agent, I could see like, oh, that actor from Winter's Bone would be perfect in this because like it's the same sort of film. But that first film, you watch it and not knowing if that movie was going to be a hit, if audiences were going to be like a bunch of kids killing themselves over food or for accolades or whatever, or just to live, like that could have been a really bad idea. And so that movie did not have a lot of money. And you look at like, what is the possible outcome of this film? And you could see all the little errors in the way. It wasn't a well-made film. Like there's errors in it,
Sure.
but it's entertaining is I guess what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. But yeah.
Flawed but watchable.
Yeah. And then as they got more money, the films got better. So
Yeah. Well, in our last couple of minutes, I just want to ask, is there any advice that you want to give to the Iowa film community before you take off for Vancouver and start your new adventure?
Well, yeah. I think to sort of work in a creative industry, and it's hard. I've been a musician. I've tried breaking into sort of that industry as well, and it's kind of something you can't really do it unless you have to do it. If you can stand to do anything else, if you can enjoy doing anything else, you should probably do that. If at the end of the day you are not happy doing anything else other than making films or acting or writing or performing music, then you should do that. And if you're going to do it, you should obsess about it. Like push your family aside, focus on like I'm joking, but it's all don't obviously do that, but like you got to spend every waking moment like thinking about your art form and trying to get better. Whether it's even when you're like in your downtime watching a film, it's quizzing yourself on what makes that film so good.
Yes.
Stay obsessed about the details, I guess. The devil's in all the details. But yeah.
Yeah. The devils and the angels are in the details.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. It's
Wow.
probably the best advice I could give on that. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any parting thoughts you want to give
Well,
besides all of the wonderful thoughts you've given so far?
yeah. I think there's so many people who think Hollywood is just a bunch of like shallow people, like that like art is. Some people like legitimately believe art is just not necessary for a society to flourish, and then they go out and they get in their car and they listen to music they like. They drive by a building and they admire the look of the building that was designed by an architect who has a master's degree and spent $90,000 getting the education to learn how to do that. Art is everywhere, and whether it's a film or music or a painting or the way a building was designed, it is the reason why we live. And if you're ever at the point where you're like, man, is making a film really important? Is what I do that beneficial in the long run? Just remind yourself, yes, it is. It like, even if you don't contribute anything into the end, you are part of this sort of zeitgeist of artists who are constantly looking to push the envelope and create new art that changes people's perspectives and gives us a reason to live, So art is so very important. Just appreciate it. Don't ever get to the point where you think your art is better than a different type of art, like, oh, I make films, I'm better than a painter or whatever. It's all the same thing. It's just different forms of expression. So, keep making, keep pushing yourself, obsess about it, and know that your voice is important, I guess. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. It's all warm and gooey inside.
That's great.
Yeah.
Michael, you got anything?
I do not.
Michael's got
at all.
nothing.
Okay.
Adam
Sorry.
Orton,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, man.
Thank you
I
so
really
much.
appreciate your time.
It's so cool. Thanks for the wine. I'm going to take another swig.
Please do, yeah, and please safe travels to Vancouver, and
Yeah,
give us love from frozen Canada.
I will. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I hope, keep following me on Facebook. I hope you follow DreamCity Cinema.
Yes, please go ahead.
.com or adamorton.com, or you can search me on Facebook and find that. But I got a short film coming out called Don't Watch This. My good friend Bo Batterson and I worked on that film, so follow him as well. And
Great.
yeah, obviously, viewers follow Mediaverse. If you aren't already, smash that subscribe button.
Oh, God. Bo, you're next, by the way. I want you to know that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the camera now. Bo, you are next.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you so much. But it was great coming on.
That was great to have you, and I've loved working with you every
Yeah.
time we get a chance to.
I'll be back. So
Great.
cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks.
Have a great night. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching the episode, and we can't wait to see you in the next one. So there he is. Like and subscribe. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.